Hey, how's it hanging, everyone? MMA Rituals reporting in, and today I'll be hitting you with my ranking of the Big Three's commentary for every fight from UFC Fight Night to Ritter vs. Allen. Now, if somehow you've been living under a rock and haven't seen that last weekend MMA Guru, Tracy, and Bedtime MMA came together for a stream of the ages to commentate every single fight on this card, then please, I urge you to go watch it before watching this ranking. Now, you may be thinking, how am I going to be ranking their commentary for these fights? Well, it's not based purely on the quality or content of the fight itself. Now, I will take that into account because the peaks and valleys of a fight, the dynamics of it, as well as controversy that comes along, as we'll get into, does play a factor. I'm thinking more about notable moments, catchphrases, comedy, and impressions. Okay, that's what these YouTubers are known for, and that's really what I'm going to be focusing on. So, starting off this ranking at the number 13 spot, I've chosen to put Arichi Lang versus Cody Gibson. Now again, what I thought of this fight, what they thought of this fight, how this fight played out, doesn't really matter. You know, the reason this is in last place is because it's a 21-second knockout, so it gave these guys less time to work, you know, less impressions, less jokes per second. Not a lot of stuff happened. Now, Tracy did slip in a sneaky corpse guard reference, which if you follow CTE Society on Instagram, I'm sure you enjoyed that. You know, Guru and Bedtime, they were hitting some Rogan impressions. That was certainly great. You know, Guru thought Arichi Lang was a wizard or a sorcerer, maybe a warlock, something like that, because he came out in this Mongolian helmet that held all these red tassels down the back of it. It was made of, you know, black steel with this crazy point at the top. It was a cool helmet, you know, but freaked Guru out a bit. You know, let's move ahead. You know, it was only a 20-second knockout. Again, moving up ahead, we got number 12, Manon Fiorot versus Jasmine Jasudavicius. This was maybe a 40-second knockout, right? I don't know exactly how quick, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that Bedtime dropped the coughing baby versus hydrogen bomb meme, okay? The one time that happened this live stream. Classic, you know? They are going through just the textbook Roganisms, okay? Hitting all of them. The whoa, look out, you know? They're hitting the you do not want to be there, the get out of there, all these classic ones. Bedtime, Glaze is Kevin Lee, he can't help it. There's only one fighter he glazes more. We'll get to him later, don't worry. You know, but the outside foot battle gets mentioned. There's not too much to work on here. You know, that's really all they had time for. But they hit a lot of classics. That's why I put this above Arichi Lang and Cody Gibson. So, moving on, number 11, Melissa Croden. So, versus Tainara Lisboa. Not that anybody cares about these two broads. But here's the thing. This was the first fight that they streamed, right? First fight of the card. They came in a bit late. They started in the second round. And they were still warming up during this one. You could tell, you know, they were talking over each other. They hadn't gotten into a flow state yet. They didn't sync up properly. Their videos were a little out of time. So, you know, maybe Lucas was spoiling some things by reacting earlier than the other guys. They were figuring it out. This was a feeling out process. You know, this was a real touch and go sort of situation. But we did still have a couple of good moments, you know. We had some Roganisms right off the bat. They're talking about the calf kick. The calf kick changed the game, man. You know, Bedtime, Nerd Maxon with his BJJ knowledge. Nobody cares. That was great. Lucas didn't know it was Croden's debut. Again, great stuff. Now, this did introduce the interdimensional Lucas Tracy timeline, which as we progress into this video, you'll see that there's multiple layers to this time traveling cake. So, you know, Lucas Tracy, he's really the Edward Richtofen of this group, but you know, we'll get into that stuff later. So let's move ahead. You know, they only had 2 rounds to work with on that one. Now, I got Charles Jourdain versus Davy Grant at number 10. Now, this one was another 1-round fight, right? Croden and Lisboa was 2. So why is this ahead? Well, that's because the Davy Grant chant. The Dave Grant chant. Lucas was on something for this live stream. The Davy Grant chant, it's not something I'll be getting out of my head anytime soon, let me tell you that. Okay? This fight lasted a lot longer than Arichi Lang and Firo's KOs, right? So they had more time to work. They had more time to just chant for Davy Grant, right? Guru calls Grant crafty. That was a great moment. Lucas says Grant hits like a truck. But really, the unforgettable moment of this fight was the Davy Grant chant, you know? How can you deny that? Let's move on ahead. Number 9, Mike Malott versus Kevin Holland. Now, we're going to see a trend here. So, these next 3 are the main 3 fights on the card. On the main card, I should say. And the reason for that is that they locked in so much that they almost dialed back the comedy a bit too much, in my personal opinion. Now, some people might like that because, you know, as a trio, their commentary worked astoundingly well together. They were bouncing off of each other. You know, Bedtime was hitting all the BJJ knowledge. Lucas, his rusty cardio kickboxing, was coming into play with the striking. You know, Guru had the clinch, right? Muscling people around, bullying you in the clinch. They were locked in for the last 3 fights. So much so that the impressions and everything else fell off a little bit. It didn't fall off entirely, as we'll see, but it fell off a little bit. That's why I put the main 3 fights at these next 3 spots. Well, you'll see how I ranked them. But Mike Malott and Kevin Holland I had here specifically because of the controversy of the low blow. Now, it was a funny moment, but it wasn't that funny, okay? It was a lot of just like them complaining about Holland, which I get it, you know, there's lots to complain about. He was pretty much obviously playing it up. To me, to most people who watched it, he was playing that up. But it doesn't change the fact that that sort of killed the momentum of their commentary. Okay, it switched the focus from comedy, from bits to laughs to just this like, oh, Kevin Holland is ruining this right now, you know? Now, some good stuff that did happen in this fight was that Guru hinted at something that he knows about D-Rod that he was not willing to share. Apparently the guy's not fighting anymore, which is really strange, but he didn't want to share it, so we don't really have anything else on that. Bedtime was endlessly coping about the JDM versus Holland split decision. We're going to see a trend going forward. Bedtime just cannot stop glazing JDM. He can't stop coping about close fights JDM's had. And then, of course, Guru's there like an enabler to just go along with everything he says because he also loves JDM, and they just cannot help themselves. You know, it's funny, it is, but it becomes a lot. You know, Lucas debuts knocking on the top 5's door. He's singing this song like he's getting paid to, which he is. Right? He is. And it's beautiful. I can't wait for the Lucas Tracy album. I really can't. You know, Bedtime drops the Don't Let Him Bully You, Son. First one of the card. That was great. And Guru questions a little bit about our friend James Lynch and how he might have gotten his last name. Anyway, let's move on from that one. You know, we're going up now. We got Brendan Allen versus Rainier DeRitter. So this one I put ahead just because it had a few funnier moments and it went longer. You know, it went around longer and it didn't have that groin shot to kill momentum in the middle and sort of stop the flow of commentary. Now, the thing about this one is that Guru was glazing RDR so much in round 1. It was really bad. Now, I love RDR. I still do, even an embarrassing loss like he just took from Allen. But I don't even know if I could glaze him the way Guru was. So that was a lot to handle. Then Lucas just drops some classic lines, says Allen is imposing his will. Guru and Bedtime, they're nerd maxing together with RDR's crazy back takes and his control in round one. All the different traps and setups he's using on the ground to manipulate Allen and toss him around and keep him pinned and switch the body triangle. They're going crazy for that. They're going crazy for it. They also hit their first Bilal Muhammad impressions. Surprising that it took, basically 13 fights until the very last one, the main event, for them to get to something seemingly as universally beloved as a Bilal Muhammad impression. But that's what it took. So, yeah. Great commentary here. Let's move on to the next one. Ayman Zahabi versus Marlon Vera. This one was also good. They thought that Cheeto was ahead 2-0. Guru sort of brought them back to reality and said, the first round could have gone Zahabi's way. It was close. Lucas was stubborn as a mule, strong as an ox. He was not giving up that he thought Cheeto won the first 2 rounds. I didn't see that, but that's not what we're discussing. So, what happened in this fight? Well, Lucas drops the first Sweet Pea special of the card. Okay? That's legendary right there. That's unforgettable stuff. Guru and Bedtime do their first Conor impressions. Crazy. At the featured fight, we're getting our first Conor impressions of the whole card. Then they're calling Cheeto a fluky flukester. They're bringing up, how basically his whole game is just getting beat up, getting doubled, tripled, quadrupled on strikes, and then landing a big meaty hook or a sweet chin music or just a sneaky uppercut, something that sneaks in around the guard and drops the opponent, wins him the round, even though he's being just taken to school, basically having master classes put on him. It's happened in the Rob Font fight. It happened in the Dominic Cruz fight. It was happening in the Edgar fight, although Edgar was just taking him down, and then he knocks Edgar out. But they are fed up with the fact that Vera's main character syndrome is not leaving his mind, even though he has been losing all of his aura and losing all of his knockout power and his ability to find those specific shots that win him those rounds like he used to have in the past. So, they were not too happy about that. So that brought the commentary down a bit on this one. However, Lucas was drinking his coconut water and he was reading from the newspaper. He printed out a script on a newspaper and was reading it in his newsboy cap, drinking his coconut water from the carton. That was great. You have to love that. You have to respect that. Come on. Okay, let's move ahead. Number 6 here, Yusri Belgaroui versus Azmat Bekoev. So this one was real interesting, right? Because this was a crazy scrap. So they were going wild for this. Nobody expected it to. Belgaroui was a big underdog. Nobody picked him. Immediately, the interdimensional Lucas Tracy theory is confirmed, okay? Lucas Tracy is in the future on stream. I'm not kidding. I'll link a timestamp in the description. You can go to the stream and see that Lucas Tracy is in the future calling everything that's happening before it's happened. I don't know how to explain it other than that he's a time traveler and he's figured out a way to create some sort of portal device that will push him into the future and pull him back into the present. Has he control of the past yet? I don't know. I don't think the technology has gotten that far yet, but we'll find out. Maybe he'll have a moment here in a second and figure out how to go into the past as well. But speaking of moments, Lucas hit his first moment of the card at this one. He didn't take too long to get it ready. Only the second fight of the card, and he's already dropping moments. But classic, everybody was expecting it. Still hits. Never fails. Lucas calls the fight 2-1 for Belgaroui. You see what I mean? You see what I mean? This dude, he's jumping in these vortexes, man. He's traveling through space. He's astrally projecting. That wasn't even how you pronounce either one of those words, but I just said it like that anyway because I'm just so overwhelmed by the sheer authority of Lucas's presence on the live stream that I just feel the science enter my body, you know? Anyway, Lucas, he calls the fight 2-1 for Belgarui after the second round. And Bedtime, Guru, chat, everybody they stop in their tracks and they realize this guy's from the future, man. Anyway, Guru drops the first people forget man of the stream in a Rogan impression. Great stuff. Great stuff. How do you hate that? Come on. Anyway, moving on. Number 5. Jordan Santos versus Danny Barlow. Another scrap. This one specifically had the highest peaks and valleys and most dynamics to this fight than any other probably. You know, this was a good first round, a crazy second round that's back and forth. They're both hurting each other. Guru's screaming. Lucas is just, mouth agape, just wailing at the top of his lungs. Bedtime, just lost his kids in the divorce settlement. And these guys just tossing each other's brain cells out the window for us, for our entertainment. You have to appreciate it. Now, I've ranked this one this high, not just because of that, but because Lucas mentions Lighterman's skill for the first time this card. Oh, so satisfying to hear some Lighterman skill from him. It is. In the end, it didn't work out because the guy with the Lighterman skill, Danny Barlow, didn't end up showing out. He kind of got, I'm not going to say fraud checked because he was coming off of a loss. But listen, he gassed and he lost this fight clearly. So Lighterman's skill did not pull through for him here, but doesn't matter. Lucas will make it known, and that's all that's important. So this also debuted the Barlow's win in the outside foot battle here. Another classic. Bedtime drops Tough Cookie. I think maybe this is the second or third Tough Cookie of the card because we had 2 women's fights before this, and I feel like that's almost guaranteed, I feel like there's at least 5 or 6 Tough Cookies every WMMA fight these guys commentate. And then, of course, Guru gets really mad about just blatantly incorrect strike numbers, as he always does. Great stuff from him. That's classic Guru right there. So, moving on. Number 4, Stephanie Luciano versus Ravina Oliveira. A WMMA... I can't speak. I cannot speak. A WMMA fight this high up. Now, this one's not about the fight at all because the fight was boring. But that's the brilliance of this ranking, is that I can have a boring fight like this high because the commentary was peak, okay? These guys assigned their roles this fight. Bedtime asserted that he would take over the BJJ nerd wankery. Lucas, reminds us all of the rusty cardio kickboxing base. He handles the striking. Guru, because of his size, his strength, his bully attitude, he's the clinch guy. He's the Muay Thai man. All right? They assign their roles, and then there's classic Roganisms. Benson Henderson. The invention of the calf kick. People forget, man. Poirier invented the calf kick in 2021 against McGregor. Guru hits a Matt Serra impression. Bedtime is doing his Tim Walsh. Guru even brings up the Cejudo fart box situation that happened just a couple days ago, maybe a week at this point. But yeah, this was just great. They were making these beautiful, just Muay Thai noises, pure autism. These guys always retard maxing. Great stuff from them. And, yeah, It just goes to show that you don't need a barn burner for these guys to just riff. Just to let them go, Let them off the leash. Let these hens out the hen house. That one didn't work, but you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm trying to say. So let's move on ahead. Drew Dober versus Kyle Prepolek. Now, you might be thinking, how's this one this high when this has a groin strike? Before, I ranked Mike Mallet versus Kevin Holland pretty low because that had a groin strike that interrupted the flow of the commentary, sort of killed the momentum of it. Now, this one's here because this groin strike happens in the third round, and it's twice as short as the other. And also, there's some classic bits in this one, Officer Dober. Immediately, Officer Dober. It's the first thing Guru mentions. He can't help himself. Then we get the wheelchair. The wheelchair's brought up, for the first time this card. Bedtime glazing JDM for no reason. I can't even remember the context of this. How did this get brought up? There must be a fight. There must have been a fight, a common opponent between Drew Dober and JDM. I can't, for the life of me, think who it would have been on the spot right now. Maybe with Prepolek? No, because Benoit, he only fought at welterweight once, and it was against Zaleski. So, no, that wouldn't work. But Dober, who would... Anyway, I'm not going to get hung up on this. Bedtime was just glazing JDM. I can't explain it. He's doing it almost every fight. That's an exaggeration, but he's doing it a lot. He can't help himself. Now, there was a Rogan explosion, and I feel like I'm saying this for every single one, but, it never fails to make me laugh. I love the Rogan impressions. I love the Rogan catchphrases, the quotables. They're always funny, Who does that to Kyle Prepolek? As Guru drops that one as soon as Drew Dober kicks him in the balls. Who does that to Kyle Prepolek, man? Guru hits the unbelievable, Bedtime's bringing up the steel cups. People forget, man. Steel cups, they give you a little extra leverage on an armbar. And, of course, Bedtime drops his first fence sitting. This guy, come on. If you've seen a Bedtime prediction video, this guy's always fence sitting. He will never plant his feet in the ground. He's not trading big meaty hooks in the pocket like Lucas Tracy, okay? Lucas is standing side by side, arms locked in arms with Benoit, all his boys. I can't think of any of his other boys right now. Benoit just came straight to mind. But, Bedtime's fence sitting these ones. He's on the outside. He's turning in his science reports with Corey. He's playing with the beakers and test tubes. He's one of these jab and teep and pick at you on the outside and play for points kind of guys. He's a fence sitter. He's not. He doesn't have the heart that Tracy has, but that's why we love him. Isn't that right? Anyway, Guru says Dober is seeing black in the finishing sequence, which is just, I don't care if that's like a reused joke. I'm sure if we combed through all of Guru's fight companions of his live streams for any fight night that had Drew Dober or any pay-per-view, anything like that, I'm sure he must have used that one recently. I guess not too recently, considering this guy's on what he just snapped, like a 3-fight losing streak, 4-fight losing streak. So, but that's not what matters. If you go back, I'm sure you could find him using this one, but it's still funny. Is that not great? I'm sorry. That's great. So, we'll move on. We'll move on to Kyle Nelson and Matt Frivola. So, this one also had controversy. The reason I've got this one this high is because the crash out these guys had when they thought that Dan Miragliotta stopped this fight in the first round, which he should have. And, Athletic Commission should overturn this to a first-round finish for Nelson because there was time on that clock when it was stopped. It doesn't matter because the legendary fallout of that, the aftermath, the crash out was so spectacular. I mean, it was sending me back. It was giving me shades of, Jalen Turner knocking out Bobby Green and Guru just screaming and losing his mind and just calling the ref every slur he can think of. And that the spirit lives on here as he immediately calls Dan Murgliata geriatric, compares him to Joe Biden, say that he's, his cognitive properties are just disintegrating. He's falling apart at the seams, basically. And we're getting Bedtime Strickland impressions. They're saying that Kyle Nelson with the beard shaved looks like Strickland. Lucas Tracy's bringing up Marty Lewis versus Billy the Kid. Bedtime drops the first on paper of the card. Come on. There were so many great lines from this. So many memorable moments, but really it was just that great crash out at the end of the first round from these guys. That's how legends are made. It's those kinds of moments that get clipped and shared around. It's just it was a beautiful delve into insanity right there. I loved it. Anyway, the number one fight, what I've ranked in first place here is Bruno Silva versus Hyun Sung Park. This one just made me laugh the most, I'm going to be honest. They started off this fight with this great bit about Lucas explaining that he wears stilts in all of his photos so that he can never be mogged, and then Guru immediately says that he's bringing stilts when he meets him so that he is still a head and shoulders above him. And these guys are just going back and forth. Lucas is just giggling the whole time during this first round. He just can't stop laughing. He's bringing up training with Big Mog. He's talking about the back knee on Silva, saying the volcanoes are erupting. It's great stuff. Guru and Bedtime both agree that he's in another dimension. He's not even experiencing the same things they are. He's not seeing and experiencing life the way they are in that moment. And then he brings up the Real Food Cookbook. He says that Silva should get on it. It'll help clean up that back knee. And Lucas is coping hard. He picked Park. Guru picked Silva as his sneaky underdog of the card. And Guru is real loud and obnoxious about his underdog. So he made it known that, he's rooting for Silva. He's rootin' tootin'. He does not really enjoy the herky-jerky attitude of Tracy about being, what's wrong with Park? Something's wrong with him. He's trying to cope. At the end of round one, he thought Lucas didn't know who won the round. He was trying to be like, who are we giving this round to? Trying to make it seem like it was close, even though Park had his lip busted open. There was blood leaking out of his mouth. Silva was battering him. He was winning the grappling, winning the striking. Lucas just made the commentary for this fight in particular unforgettable. It was hysterical. Please, I can't do any of these fights justice, guys. I can't do it justice just explaining it to you, but I really wanted to make this video because I loved this live stream. This was something special. I've just been rewatching it a bunch, and I just wanted to talk about it. I don't even know if this was the best idea because these comedic ideas, the impressions, these catchphrases, these moments, I don't know if they come across, and I mean, I know that they don't come across in the same way that they do on the live stream, obviously. But I hope this is just an encouragement for you to go back and rewatch it and enjoy it, because I've been doing that so much, and I've been loving every single moment of it. So if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, tell me in the comments below what your favorite moment of the stream was. There were tons of great bits that happened in between fights that I haven't covered in this video, and post main event as well. So if one of your favorite moments was one of those, then, let's talk about those too. Comment it. And, also sub to each of these guys. MMA Guru, Lucas Tracy, Bedtime. I've been listening to these guys for years. I listen to these guys pretty much every day, at work, in the car. It's become habit for me now, and I love every minute of it. This live stream was great. I can't look forward. I can't wait. I can't look forward. I'm losing it here, guys. This is the end though, so not too long, not too much more. But I can't wait for the next live stream. I hope they do it at the start of next year. And, if this goes over well, if it gets a couple of likes or something, a few people comment, then I'll make another one of these for whenever they do their next collab. But, yeah. Subscribe if you like the content. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great night. Keep rewatching that live stream. And support MMA YouTube. Thank you.